Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Dan Stewart. I'm a lecturer in ancient history and one of the admissions tutors in the school. And tonight we're going to have a look at archaeology and ancient history degrees at Leicester. And I'm going to just talk through how we approach the study of the past, how we kind of conceptualize these linked but separate disciplines, and talk through kind of some of the practicalities of what these degrees involve. And if you find that you have any questions along the way, you can pop them into the chat. You can save them to the end. We'll save time at the end so you can ask any questions that you have. And I'm joined tonight as well, one of my archaeology colleagues, Jose, who's going to lurk in the chat there and answer any kind of simple questions that you might have on the way. So just to warn you from the outset that there are some human remains in this presentation. And one of the things that we talk about at Leicester in our degrees is kind of the ethics of how we study the past. And part of those ethics involve the ways in which we use human remains for educational purposes. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. There's nothing gooey or sticky in the human remains, it's just skeletons. But it's important, I think, when you're dealing with real people that you kind of give them a warning that you might see some human remains. Now, of course, every open day that you attend, whether in person or online, we'll have a slide that like this, which is essentially about trying to sell the best part of the university to you, to the students. And like the fact of the matter is that no matter where you choose to go for your degree, you're going to get a great education. All of the universities in the UK are excellent. We're not really in competition with our ancient historian and archaeological colleagues at other places. We study together, we collaborate, we have lots of projects between universities. But the thing that kind of separates the individual archaeology or ancient history programs between the different universities is the material that they specialize in and the way in which they approach the study of the past. And so what I want to do today is essentially show you the way in which we do it at Leicester so you can make an informed choice about where you might go. And it's a general kind of a truism that the past is everywhere, that we can't get away from it. Like we see it in our politics, we see it in our cities. I'm presenting from my house. My house was built in 1890. And so literally I'm living in the past. And when you walk around most kind of city centers in the UK in particular, you will see kind of evidence of the past all around us. And frequently it's like centuries of past, of built past that we can see in our city centers. But we absorb it in our music, in our literature, in our entertainment. Like they have excellent Assassin's Creed games, or in like Indiana Jones or Tomb Raider movies. There's a 5th Indiana Jones movie that's coming out next year that they just released a trailer, which I'm oddly excited for, even though it's bad archaeology in Indiana Jones movies. And so part of what we want to do at Leicester is kind of flag up, I suppose, the ways in which the past helps frame our contemporary present. And the way that we do that is essentially by studying the past in 2 different ways. We do it in order to appreciate and understand kind of difference and diversity, to kind of reinforce the notion that the perspectives that we hold on the world aren't the only perspectives that ever existed. We also study the past in order to appreciate how we've got to where we are now in our contemporary societies. But first and foremost, we kind of study the past as a way to develop really rigorous critical thinking so that we can be effective and conscientious citizens in the worlds that we inhabit now. And that we don't just accept what we are told without question, and we develop kind of critical thinking skills so we can assess that information for ourselves. And the way that we kind of study that past is through archaeology and ancient history. Archaeology is the study of the past through material remains. And that's not specific to a period or a culture. It's like any of the stuff that people have made at any point in time constitutes an archaeological resource that we might be looking at within the course of your degree. And of course, it's not just the stuff, it's not just the artifacts that people have made that are important. It's also anything that humans have kind of interacted with as well that we might think of as being part of that archaeological inquiry. So that could be remains of plants, of past environments that we can recognize through seeds and pollen, to entire landscapes that have been modified by human activity. Ancient history, on the other hand, does have kind of a period and cultural focus, and that is kind of an examination of the cultures of Greece and Rome and the other peoples of the Mediterranean that the Greeks and the Romans interacted with. And ancient history has a very strong focus on surviving written evidence. And so we look at primary sources that have been written by people thousands of years ago, whether that is kind of early histories or poetry or plays. But we'll also look at inscriptions or graffiti, and also the associated kind of material culture of the Greek and the Roman past, and try to interrogate that to see what we can say about those cultures in the past. And incidentally, on the screen there, you can see some evidence of some of the material that we look at, including the earliest example of women's handwriting in Britain. On the bottom left of your screen, that's a birthday invitation that was found at a fort on Hadrian's Wall, where the wife of the commander of the fort is writing to another woman in a separate fort, asking her to come to her birthday party, and she's signed it herself at the bottom. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, we look at archaeology and we look at ancient history in our school. We're unique in kind of combining archaeology and ancient history in the one department. There's only one other university in the UK that does that. And of course, I'm going to say this, but we're very good at what we do. We are highly ranked in all of the different sorts of rankings that you can have. In the UK, we're ranked a top 10 department for our teaching. We're ranked as a top 5 department for our research. And in all of the kind of the newspaper university rankings, we also do very, very well. But of course, every university is going to say that. But one of the things that kind of separates Leicester from those other places is the fact that we are inherently interdisciplinary in the way that we approach the past. And you can see the human remains on the screen now. There's Richard III, where I'm contractually obligated to mention that we were the people that discovered Richard III. And in order to understand the burial of Richard III, we had to involve loads of techniques and loads of methodologies that are derived from lots of different disciplines in order to not just kind of identify the body, but to understand the wider context of that burial and who Richard was. And so, we looked at medicine and anthropology in order to understand kind of the diseases or the conditions that Richard had when he was alive. We used genetics in order to identify the body securely as being a Plantagenet, and so we used the descendants of Plantagenets and compared their DNA. We used chemistry and geology to understand kind of the nature of the burial and the soils that he was in. And there was a lot of history and historical research that went into identifying the burial place in the first place. And our way in which we study the past at Leicester draws on all of those different disciplines all the way through the degrees. And so our archaeology is informed by written sources, and our ancient history is informed by material culture as well. That's just the way that we do things at Leicester. And it means that we're examining frequently big ideas that transcend specific historical periods. So we can be asking big questions about what it means to be human, and we can archaeologically, we can look at that through the lens of human evolution, or in ancient history side of things, we can be reading the works of Aristotle and Cicero as they philosophize about what it means to be human. Or we will look at like big themes like hierarchy and the rise of elites and wealth inequality in ancient societies. You know, what happens when there are increasing amounts of wealth held by fewer and fewer people? Well, we have loads of examples throughout history that give us insight into what happens to societies where there's massive wealth inequalities and really kind of rigid hierarchies where it's hard to move between the different strata within society. And we can look, you know, at what happens when peoples interact with each other. Like one of the beautiful things about looking at archaeology and ancient history is just the huge variety of human cultures that have existed on the planet. And one of the things that we look at is, you know, what happens when those cultures bump up against each other. Sometimes it can be peaceful, but sometimes there can be conflict. And we can look at those interactions and kind of understand then how we might apply some of those lessons in the contemporary world. And crucially, when we're thinking about archaeology and ancient history, it's not just about when or where or who did something. It's not just about kind of the big man or the general or the kings, those kinds of approaches to the past. Most fundamentally, it's about the why and the how. You know, asking why this happened. How did this occur? How do we know? It's those big questions that we're really concerned with in the School of Archaeology and Ancient History, because those big questions make us much more critical citizens of our own societies and our own cultures as well. And we should be asking those same questions of our leaders and our politics and our media now. So that's a broad overview of what archaeology and ancient history, our approach to it is at Leicester. So how do we study that in terms of our degrees? We have 3 single honors degrees, the BA Archaeology, the BSc Archaeology, and the BA in Ancient History. And we have a range of joint honors degrees as well. We have a BA in Ancient History and Archaeology, a BA in Ancient History and History, which is run with the School of History, Politics, and International Relations. And we also have a BA in History and Archaeology, which focuses on the historical archaeology of kind of like post-1500 Europe and North America, by and large. Those are our degrees for studying on campus. If you're interested in a more flexible, part-time, and distance learning mode, we also have a range of open access distance learning degrees. And I'm very happy to answer questions about those as well, although the focus today is on our campus-based degrees. So our 2 archaeology single honors degrees, the BA Archaeology and the BSc Archaeology, are designed to emphasize slightly different aspects of the archaeological study of the past, depending on your own interests. You can sign up from year 1 for either the BA Archaeology or the BSc Archaeology, and you can change between the 2 pathways at the end of your first year as well, should you want to try the other one instead. The BA Archaeology has more of an emphasis on heritage, meaning, you know, how do we present our understanding of the past to the public? How do we interpret kind of complex narratives and interpretations about the past, summarize those and present those to a wide range of audiences? And that degree is particularly well suited for people who are interested in going into museums or working with charities in the heritage sector, perhaps, or who want to go on and work in education. The BSc Archaeology has more of an emphasis on professional archaeological practice, in the sense of like working in commercial archaeology, perhaps, doing contract archaeology. Much of that is developer-funded archaeology in the UK, where in advance of construction, archaeologists come in and kind of make sure that nothing super vital is going to get destroyed. There's a lot of demand for archaeologists at the moment in relation to big infrastructure projects like HS2. And in fact, you know, one of the things that I'm going to talk about in a minute is like the employability component of our degree. But archaeology is the only humanities subject that is on the government skills shortage register, meaning that there's it's kind of an officially recognized profession where there needs to be more training in place to provide enough people to serve the demand of that. And that's down to kind of the interplay between developers and commercial archaeology within the UK construction industry. And our BSc Archaeology would provide you a route into that if that's what you were interested in. Where you could also train to be a material specialist as well, which Jose might be able to answer some questions about a little bit later on. He runs a third-year course looking at ceramics. But we have a range of different scientific techniques available to kind of teach you how to interpret particular types of materials within artifacts. Our BA Ancient History is about, as I said, studying ancient Greece, Rome, and kind of the cultures that they interacted with in the Mediterranean. So we do smatterings of Persians and Assyrians and the peoples of the Near East. We do a bit of Egypt and North Africa, and we'll talk also about the peoples in Northwest Europe that the Greeks and the Romans interacted with. As I said, there is a strong focus on kind of the ancient evidence, the written sources of the Greeks and the Romans themselves, their written histories or their inscriptions, but because we sit within a school of archaeology and ancient history, we also incorporate the material remains of the ancient world into the way in which we teach ancient history. So one of the courses that I teach is about looking at ancient evidence that survives from the Greek and the Roman world, and I frame that course around where writing exists. So it's not just about our written histories, but also about graffiti and public inscriptions and religious sanctuaries and funerary ritual. And so we look at how writing is involved in all of those different things to give a much more kind of broad brush overview of these cultures and societies. There is no language requirement for the BA Ancient History. We're not going to force you to do Latin or Greek, but if you want to learn Latin and Greek, we have those options available for you, and I'm happy to answer any questions about how that works if you're interested. One of our most popular degrees is a joint degree in ancient history and archaeology, which combines the best of both subjects, meaning you get the hands-on kind of practical methodological approach to archaeology that you would get from the archaeology degree, and you also get the emphasis on the texts and kind of the period and culture specific information that you would get from the BA Ancient History. It's less detailed and less of a deep dive than you would get in a single honors degree because you're working in both disciplines, but it gives you a kind of a broad brush overview of those two disciplines and how you might interrogate the past yourself. And in any degree that has archaeology in the title, there's fieldwork components there as well. At Leicester, we have a variety of methods that we teach. A lot of your first year would be taken up with kind of large lectures where everybody comes together. We have an intake of around in between 40 and 45 students a year on our degrees. And so your first year, all 45 of you are kind of sitting together in some big lectures, but we make sure that every single lecture that we have is supplemented by a small group seminar as well. So you'll get kind of the briefing within the lecture, and then you'll break up into small groups later on in the week and talk through particular topics with your seminar tutor and with your peers as well. And we have lots of kind of hands-on and practical classes as well to teach you how to handle and interpret the actual physical evidence itself. And we have obviously fieldwork components for degrees that have archaeology. We'll get you out in the field within the first week of your degree, learning specific archaeological techniques. And we have loads of one-to-one supervision and hands-on activities built into our degrees as well. We're a relatively small department in the sense that there's around 28 full-time members of academic staff. But we're all housed in the one building, so it's really easy to come in and just have a chat. We operate an open door policy in our offices, so that if we're in our office, you can come and have a chat. It's not a problem. Now, most of the degrees in the UK are kind of structured roughly the same way. And I like to tell people that it can be healthy or useful to think of your degree as shaped like a pyramid, hence my kind of cliched drone shots of pyramids that you see on the screen there. And I say pyramid because, like a pyramid, you have a very broad base in your first year. And the whole point of the first year is to give everybody an overview of the topic, to ensure that everybody's on the same page. We don't have, we do have like entry grades, obviously, that you have to meet in order to get into our program, but we don't have subject-specific requirements or prerequisites that you would need to do in order to get into our degrees. So the first year is making sure everybody's on the same page. Then in your second and your third year, you're moving up the sides of the pyramid and getting more specialized and more detailed as you go. So in the second year, you still have to do some core modules that we've kind of forced you to do so that you have the intellectual grounding that you need, but you're able to then kind of build some of your own optionality into your degree by choosing the modules and stuff that you would like. And in your third year, you get really specialized, especially through the dissertation, which all of our degrees finish with a dissertation. It's a 10,000-word research project, just you and a supervisor working on this thing over the course of the year. And it tends to be the thing that students remember most about their time at university is their dissertation. As you can see on the screen there, how that works in practice, that pyramid of your degree is kind of laid out for the archaeology degree for you there. In year one, you do 8 core modules and you don't have any choice. We tell you what it is that you need to do, and that gives you the kind of broad survey in human culture and development that you would get in the Intro to World Archaeology modules, and then an introduction to archaeological techniques and methods, practical aims and methods, how we interrogate landscapes, how we interrogate artifacts, and then how we build those different kind of bits of evidence into coherent arguments in critical thinking in archaeology or debates in archaeology. In year 2, you do fieldwork course. So you basically write up aspects of your fieldwork that you did in the summer in between year 1 and year 2 of your degree. And you would then do archaeological theory and professional practice. And then a choice, you have to do 5 option modules from a choice of about a dozen. There's an optional year abroad, which I can talk more about, or Jose can talk more about in the Q&A portion if you're interested. And in the final year, you do, again, another fieldwork module, 4 option modules, and a dissertation. So you're getting kind of narrower and more focused as you progress through your degree. It's the same in ancient history. The same principles apply. You have that broad survey of Greek and Roman history in the beginning. You have a broad survey of the different types of evidence that is available for the study of the Greek and Roman past. And we get that broad survey of the cultures that the Greeks and the Romans were interacting with at the same time. Because we want to put Greece and Rome within a wider context of human culture and civilization, you're also going to do those broad introductory archaeological survey modules as well in the Intro to World Archaeology options. In year 2, you have 2 core modules in ancient history. One where you do a deep dive into 3 sources from ancient history. Currently, it's Aeschylus's Persians, so a play about the Persian War. That's followed up by Cicero's De Republica, which is a philosophical tract that talks about the ideal state. And the third source is the Athenian Acropolis through time. And that just gives you the opportunity to kind of hold up these individual sources, shake them, and ask a bunch of different questions about them over a prolonged period. So we spend about 3 or 4 weeks on each source before we move on to the next one. That's complemented with a course, a module that looks at the different kind of theoretical approaches that we bring to the study of the past. As a colleague of mine says, there's only two ways to do theory, intentionally or unintentionally, but either way, you're still doing theory. So we talk through the ways in which people have looked at gender in the past or looked at the economy in the past, or looked at art and visual culture in the past. And then you have 6 options that you have to choose, again, from a list of about 10 or 12 optional modules that allow you to kind of focus on particular aspects that you might like. If you don't like the Greeks and you only like the Romans, this is a place where you can kind of avoid all the Greek stuff and focus on the Romans, or vice versa, focus only on the Greeks and avoid those pesky Romans. And in your final year, again, you're at the top of that pyramid, you're doing your dissertation and you're doing some optional modules. And you can see our joint degree in ancient history and archaeology combines those 2 approaches as well. So you have those big survey courses that give you that broad foundation in year 1. You have a combination of the core modules from archaeology and ancient history in year 2, plus a much wider variety of optional modules available to you, because you can pick from both the archaeology stream and the ancient history stream. And then your final year is, again, the list of options and dissertation. And as you can see, we have a huge range of different optional modules available to you. Those options that you see on the screen are the ones that are available now, and so there might not be the options that are available when you choose, when you come here. And that's because the vast majority of our optional modules are tied to our research interests. And this is one of the things that you will find in most universities in the UK. We say that we do research-led teaching, and it's true in the sense that the courses that are going to be available to you to choose from are the topics that we are subject specialists in, right? And so one of the things that you should be thinking about and looking at when you're making a decision about which university to go to is looking at staff research pages and look at this material that people are working on, because that's what's going to determine the range of optional modules that are available for you in whatever university you go to. So for example, we have a 3rd year optional module on human skeletal analysis. It's a lab-based module. You'll work with real bones as well as replica bones from real people to understand how we can read both death and life in the remains of actual human populations. So, you can tell a lot from people's diet, from the diseases that they might have been subject to their professions, to the amount of labor that they had to do in their life, just through the marks that it leaves on our bones, right? And the reason that we can offer that is because we have people in the department, Joe Appleby in particular, who works on human remains as her specialism. And similarly, we have a 3rd year module called Archaeology and Ancient History in Education, which places students in museums or in schools to communicate archaeology and ancient history to a huge range of audiences. And if you're interested in a PGCE or going on to train as a teacher after your undergrad, the hours that you do in this module count towards your PGCE qualification as well. And so it's about kind of emphasizing the range of practical and transferable skills that you get from an archaeology and ancient history degree that would allow you to communicate aspects of the past to a wide range of people. And the reason that we can offer that is because we have specialists in the department who work on outreach and education as their research focus. And all of this is designed to help develop your love of the subject, but allow you to build a degree that suits your interests and supports your aspirations for employment. And that's really important, and to help support that, to help you gain the employability skills that employers are desperate to have, we have a whole range of different supports available within the university. We have something called the Leicester Award, which is an accredited kind of extra qualification that you get alongside your degree, which is about teaching you specific employability skills, like how to write a cover letter, how to write a good CV, those sorts of things. But we also have a huge range of internships and placements within the department, so that you can get out and can get work experience to try out different careers or different aspects of heritage in the past before you commit. So we have placements in heritage organizations and in schools. both attached to that third-year module that I talked about, but also as volunteering opportunities. We have a huge outreach program that involves around 120 different schools around the Midlands, where you can go in and you can talk to primary and secondary school kids if you're interested, to help support the national curriculum. We have around 17 different internships a year with our commercial archaeology unit, the University of Leicester Archaeological Services, where you can be working with them in the field on actual archaeological projects as an intern. And all of that, of course, is about supporting you in your ambitions. And like a big part of coming to university is about figuring out what you like and what you don't like. And the internships and the placements allow you to do that before you have to hit the world of work. And supporting that as well, we have supporting kind of the outreach activities that I talked about. We have something called the Leicester Classics Hub, which is a partnership with the charity Classics for All, which is about bringing aspects of the Greek and Roman world into state schools where they wouldn't normally encounter those subjects. And we pulled together kind of kits for teaching particular subjects, so you can bring those into schools and bring artifacts and bring replica materials in there to kind of help inspire future generations of scholars. And of course, all of that leads to a really valuable qualification that is useful not just for becoming ancient historians or for becoming archaeologists, but for kind of anything that you might like to pursue after graduation. We have a really good record of getting our students into work or further education. And as you can see on the screen, 100% of our archaeology students are employed or in further training 6 months after graduation, and 98% of our ancient history students are. And those degrees prepare you for basically anything that you might want to do. Humanities degrees broadly are very sought after by employers because they give you the skills to take a huge range of kind of partial and fragmentary information and construct kind of coherent narratives and ideas about those kind of fragmentary narratives and present them coherently to a huge range of audiences. It's really a very sought after qualification. And that could be within kind of the subject more broadly, archaeology, ancient history, heritage, or in just about anything else. I mean, we've had students go on to do nursing, teaching, professional photography. We've had a couple of professional musicians who've ended up touring their bands around different parts of the world as well. There's all sorts of different things you can do with that degree. And like I say, we are the experts in the subjects that we teach. So it is really important that you look at the subjects that staff are researching to see if they're a good fit for you, because the stuff that I do won't necessarily be everybody's cup of tea. And so you should go in informed before you make the decisions, for example. Beyond kind of the modules and education, of course, that we give you, there's a whole range of other pastoral support that is available for you. Every student is assigned a personal tutor as soon as they get here, and this is a member of staff who basically will be checking in on you several times a semester to make sure that your studies are going well, and you can talk to them if you have, financial problems, or you're having problems with course mates, or you just have concerns or anxieties. Your personal tutor is your first protocol. They're the person that is there to help support you in all aspects of your study and your degree. And they're probably going to be the person who's going to write you a reference at the end of that degree. But we have employability skills built into all of our degrees, embedded within the modules. And in order to help kind of ease the transition from pre-university to university, we've constructed this program called the Head Start program, which gives you a jump on academic skills at university in the summer before you join us. So there's loads of support within the university available for you. What are we looking for? Well, you can see on the screen the current grades that we're accepting. But really, we're looking for people who are passionate about the past, who have a curiosity about what happened and how we know that. And that is the thing that we are most interested in our students. And in order to try to assess that, if we make you an offer, you will be invited to what we call an offer holder day. And 10 minutes of that day will be a one-on-one chat with a member of staff where we will just get to know you and you will get to know us. And in many cases, as a result of that chat, we will lower the offer that we have made to you. We'll never remove an offer, we'll never raise an offer, but there's a very good chance that we will lower that offer because we know from decades of experience of doing this that the grades that you come in with are no predictor of the grades that you will leave with at university. And the single most important thing is being interested in the subject. So why Leicester? Hopefully I've kind of given you the hard sell about why we're very good at what we do. We're passionate about our subjects. We have a huge range of expertise. We are small enough that we get to know everybody in our programs very well, and you get to know us. And we have a huge range of internships and placements to help support whatever it is you want to do as a career during your degree and afterwards. If you have any questions about any of this, you can ask them now when I stop presenting, or you can just email us and somebody from the admissions team will answer your questions. And you can see one of those email addresses on the screen at the bottom there. So thank you very much. I'm going to stop presenting and open it up for questions.
Thank you so much, Dan. So if anyone has any questions, please do pop them in the chat. Hopefully a few will come in a moment. In the meantime, Jose, did you want to say anything from your side to just highlight anything?
Good night, everybody. I'm very happy to be here too. I don't think I have a lot to add to the wonderful presentation of Dan's. You can see that he has a lot of experience doing this, but I just would like to say that this is a wonderful department. I've been working here for 5 years. I learned, I met wonderful people, and basically I work already in 4 universities, and this is by far the best in which I have had the chance to work. So I really hope that you consider joining us. I really hope that what Dan explained raised your interest. And of course, if you have any questions, Dan has laid out my expertise, material science, Islamic archaeology. I have been also in charge of study abroad, or basically anything on archaeology. I'm very happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think one of the major benefits of doing a degree in the UK, and this will be true not only at Leicester but elsewhere, is the opportunity to have that extra year studying abroad. And I would urge you, whatever open days you go to ask about the opportunities associated with the study abroad, because you get to spend an extra year in university, which from our perspective is great. Like, I never wanted to leave, that's why I'm still there. And but you get to go to, you know, North America or to a dozen different countries in Europe and study in those places and immerse yourself in those other cultures. And it's just a phenomenal opportunity to kind of experience something outside your kind of comfort zone.
Real, thanks. So I'll ask a question that we've got. Can you talk about what a typical day might look like for a student?
Sure, yeah. So within our degrees, we typically say to students, you know, that you have to treat your degree like a full-time job. So there's about 35 hours a week of work that you're expected to put in to your degree. Of that, maybe 12 to 15 hours a week is going to be class time, and the rest of it will be interactions with your peers, going to see supervisors, or talking to members of staff in their offices, or spending lots of time in the library reading. There's no getting away from the fact that you're going to be doing a lot of reading when you come to university. So a day in the life of an archaeology student is essentially, you know, coming to campus perhaps on a Monday morning. Your first lecture is going to be like 10 o'clock perhaps on a Monday. You're going to have 2 or 3 lectures that day. You'll have a seminar group probably also scheduled a little bit later in the week. And then you'll have opportunity to kind of experience some of the facilities on campus that we have on offer. Like I said in the lecture, within your first week of studying an archaeology degree, we will have you outside doing archaeology, learning archaeological techniques. It's unfortunate that you haven't been able to make it to campus today because it's situated right next to this big park called Victoria Park, and we'll bring the students out there within their first week to learn how to lay out trenches. We won't actually dig, but we'll take the tapes out there and we'll lay out the trenches, and we'll use resistivity and ground penetrating radar and train students on how to kind of peer below the surface without digging. And we have those kind of techniques, those hands-on techniques built into both the archaeology and the ancient history course, so that you're getting hands-on with the material within your first semester. So, be prepared with warm clothing and waterproofs if you're coming to do any of those degrees at Leicester.
Thanks, Dan. Jose, could you talk a little bit more about the kind of support that students would get if they were wanting to apply for a year in industry or a year abroad?
Yeah, so for year abroad, there's a whole unit in university, the study abroad unit, dedicated to organize programs to make sure that students can go abroad. If you are in the Department of Archaeology, and if you want to take a year abroad, if you want to apply to any of those programs, your only option is a year abroad, which means that in your third year, you will have you will go away. You will go to a different country, to a different university in another country. You don't have to pay anything extra. You will be provided with some economic support. But the year that you are having in the university abroad will not cost you anything extra that a year in Leicester will cost you, and you will basically take the courses of that university for that year. You may select a range of courses that the host universities will make available to you, and then at the end of that year, you come back, and then you take your third year in the university as in Leicester as your fourth year. After you finish your degree, you have done 4 years, one of them abroad, and you have that indicated in your certificate. So that helps you also when you are looking for a job, because obviously your employers will know that you have been abroad, that you have an extra range of skills, probably even an extra language, and that is also very, very useful.
Perfect, thank you. We've had a question come in which says, I'm looking at doing a joint honours in history and archaeology, but I currently am doing a higher access course. Will it be accepted at Leicester?
Well, as I kind of typed into the chat there, it does depend on which specific course it is that you were doing. But if you email us with the specifics, I can let you know tomorrow, basically, how much of that we would accept or not. So I've popped my email address in the chat there. You could also email another admissions tutor at that other address that I popped in there as well. Jose, I don't know yours off by heart, I'm afraid. Sorry.
I can reply to that too. I can help with myself.
But from experience, I can say that, obviously I can't make any promises now without knowing the specifics, but from experience, we accept the vast majority of access courses as points of entry into the degrees. So, if you just let us know the specifics, we'll be able to give you a specific answer.
Perfect, thank you. So we're pretty much out of time now, so we're going to leave it there. I have just popped a little bit more information in the chat, so if anybody has any more questions, then please do head over to our website, and obviously you've got these guys' emails if you wanted to ask them specifically. And yeah, thank you both so much for joining us, and thanks to everybody on the call who's listened in, and we hope to see you all soon.
Thanks very much. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.